The market was alive with sound. Metal traders shouting their prices, spice sellers calling out their offers, and alien merchants moving in every direction. But in the middle of that noisy crowd, silence followed a young blind girl. People stopped and turned. They did not stare because she was blind. They had seen her stumble before, guided by her little wooden stick. They stared now because something new covered her eyes. It was not cloth. It was not a bandage. It was a visor, smooth and black with thin blue lines glowing across its surface. Each time the lines pulsed, the girl tilted her head as if she was seeing the world for the first time. Mothers pulled their children closer. Old merchants whispered behind their claws. Everyone knew the rules. No outsider technology was allowed in this district. And everyone also knew only one kind of being could make such a strange device: a human. The girl walked slowly, touching the edges of the market stalls. For years she had known only darkness, but now shapes came into her mind. She gasped when she noticed the shape of a basket filled with fruit. She almost cried when she saw light falling through colored glass. The crowd was only shadows at first, but even shadows were a miracle. A guard at the corner frowned. His eyes narrowed. His hand touched the weapon on his belt. He whispered to another soldier, and they began to follow the girl quietly. In a small hidden workshop on the edge of the district, a man was busy with wires, glass, and thin sheets of metal. His hands moved quickly but carefully. He was human, one of the very few still living openly among aliens. Most humans hid, most were hunted. But this man, named Daniel, had refused to disappear. Daniel's workshop was messy. Broken gadgets lay in piles. Small lights blinked from unfinished machines. The air smelled of burned metal and oil. But in the center of the mess stood an empty chair. It was the chair where the blind girl had sat only hours ago. Daniel still remembered the way her hands had trembled when he placed the visor on her head. He remembered the way she gasped and grabbed his arm when the first faint lights appeared in her vision. You can give me eyes," she had whispered. "Not eyes," Daniel had answered softly, "but maybe a window, maybe a way to feel the shapes of the world." He had promised her nothing. The visor was only a prototype. It might fail at any moment, but he could not ignore her request. Too many turned their backs on the weak. Too many laughed at those who were broken. Daniel refused to be like them. Now, as he tightened the screws on a second visor, his mind was full of worry. If the soldiers saw her wearing his creation, they would come for him. Humans were not supposed to invent. Humans were not supposed to help. But still, he had done it. Back in the marketplace, the blind girl stopped near a fountain. She stared at the moving water. Her lips parted in awe. It was not clear, not sharp, but she saw the light dance as the waves moved. For her, it was beauty beyond words. Then she noticed something else: 2 armored soldiers staring at her from across the fountain. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their posture was tense. She gripped her stick tighter. Her steps became unsteady. The visor flickered, and she almost cried out. One of the soldiers stepped forward. His voice was hard and cold. "Where did you get that device, girl?" The crowd grew silent. No one dared speak. The girl lowered her head. She thought of Daniel. She thought of the small kindness in his eyes when he gave her the visor. She would not betray him. I found it," she whispered. The soldier's hand moved to his weapon. "Do not lie. That is human work. Humans are forbidden to build." The girl's heart raced. For the first time she could see a soldier's outline, the tall figure and the weapon shining on his belt. Her legs shook. But before the soldier could grab her, a noise came from the edge of the market. A horn, loud and deep. Another patrol was arriving. The girl turned quickly and ran into the crowd. Her visor flickered again, showing broken images of people, walls, and shadows. She stumbled, nearly falling, but somehow kept moving. The soldiers pushed after her, shouting for others to stop her. Far away, Daniel looked up from his work. He froze. His ears caught the sound of the horn. He knew at once what it meant. The soldiers had noticed. His invention was no longer secret. He wiped sweat from his face and whispered to himself, "They will come. Not just guards. Worse." Daniel's words came true faster than he expected, because while the girl hid in a narrow alley, breathing hard, 4 shadows landed at the edge of the district. They were not ordinary soldiers. Their armor was black and silver, their weapons sharp, their eyes scanning like predators. They were elite enforcers, and they had come for one man. The marketplace was restless long after the blind girl disappeared into the alleys. Whispers spread like fire. Some said the visor gave her the eyes of a hawk. Others claimed it was cursed human technology that would bring punishment on them all. No one dared speak loudly, but everyone thought the same thing. The soldiers will not stop until they find the maker. That night, doors shut earlier than usual. The narrow streets grew quiet, but even behind closed walls, families spoke in low voices. "A human did it," one merchant hissed to his wife. "No alien would build such a thing." Another warned his children. "If soldiers come knocking, say nothing. Do not even breathe about humans." Above the sleeping district, 4 figures watched from a rooftop. The elite soldiers, cloaked in black armor, moved like shadows. Their faces were hidden, their weapons glowing faintly with energy. Unlike the city guards, these were not ordinary enforcers. They were trackers, sent only when the High Council believed a human threat was dangerous. The leader, taller than the others, scanned the ground with a visor of his own. "The prototype is confirmed," he said in a flat, mechanical voice. "We follow the girl. She will lead us to the human." The girl herself was hiding in a ruined stable at the edge of the market. She clutched her stick and kept her visor close against her face, afraid it might slip. She was shaking, but not from cold, from fear. She had never seen the soldiers before. Their outlines had burned into her mind. Tall, heavy, merciless. She had lied to them, and she knew the cost if they caught her. But even with her fear, her heart felt alive. For the first time, she had seen the world. She touched the visor gently. It flickered, sending shaky outlines into her mind again. The shapes of wooden beams above her. The round shadow of a water bucket. Her own trembling hands, she whispered into the dark stable. "Daniel, what have you done to me?" Far away, Daniel was already preparing for the worst. His workshop buzzed with half-finished machines, but his attention was on a single small bag. Into it he stuffed pieces of metal, thin tools, and a set of strange chips no alien could understand. His inventions, his life's work, small things that could still change everything. As he worked, he remembered the blind girl's expression when she first saw the light. The awe, the tears, the way she clung to him as though he had pulled her out of endless night. That memory hurt more than anything. He had wanted only to help, but now soldiers were coming, and the girl was in danger because of him. He whispered to himself, "I should have stayed silent. I should never have built it." But even as he said it, he knew he would build it again if asked. Because what was the point of living if not to give hope to someone who had none? Back in the district, a knock echoed on a door. Then another. Then another. The soldiers had begun their search. An old couple opened their home, shaking with fear. The elite soldiers stormed in, scanning every corner. Their leader's voice was sharp. "The visor was made here. Speak and you may live." The old woman bowed her head. "We know nothing." "We saw nothing." The soldier's visor flashed red, measuring her heartbeat, her sweat, her breathing. After a long silence, he turned away. "Move to the next house." House by house they advanced, spreading terror. The sound of boots on stone echoed through the narrow streets like thunder. No one dared resist. Meanwhile, the girl crept from her hiding place. She knew the soldiers would never stop. If they searched enough houses, they would find Daniel. She could not allow that. He had given her sight. Now she had to protect him. Her steps were shaky. The visor flickered more and more, showing broken pieces of the street. She stumbled, hit a wall, then kept going. Fear pressed against her chest, but she did not turn back. At the same time, Daniel stepped out of his workshop carrying his bag of tools. His plan was simple: disappear before the soldiers came. But as he walked into the dark street, he froze. Ahead of him, 4 black-armored figures landed silently from a rooftop. Their glowing eyes locked onto him. Daniel's heart hammered. He knew at once who they were. The leader raised his weapon. His voice was flat and merciless. "Human engineer." "You will come with us." Daniel did not answer. His fingers tightened around the bag. From the corner of the street, a soft voice cried out, "No, don't take him." The blind girl stumbled into view. She stood between Daniel and the soldiers, her small hands spread wide. The visor on her face flickered like a dying flame. The soldiers stopped. For the first time, their leader tilted his head in curiosity. "You defend him? Why?" The girl's voice shook, but she forced the words out. "Because—" He gave me eyes. Her words fell into the silence like thunder. The crowd of hidden neighbors listening through shutters gasped. The soldiers' weapons hummed louder. Daniel stepped forward, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. His voice was steady now. "If you want me, you'll have to go through her. And through me." The leader's visor glowed red. "So be it." He lifted his weapon. The street filled with blue light. The narrow street froze in silence. Blue light hummed from the soldier's weapon, washing over Daniel and the blind girl like the glow of a storm about to strike. Neighbors hid behind shutters, holding their breath. No one dared move, no one dared speak. Daniel stood tall, though his hands trembled. He knew these weren't ordinary guards. They were elite soldiers, trained to kill and trained to hunt humans. He had no weapon, only his bag of tools. And yet he stepped forward, placing himself between the girl and the soldier's weapon. "Leave her out of this," Daniel said firmly. His voice echoed, steady but low. "She is not your target." The leader's visor glowed brighter. "All who protect the human become targets." The blind girl clenched her fists. Her visor flickered weakly, throwing shaky outlines into her mind. She could barely see the shapes of the armored soldiers, but even that was terrifying. Still, she refused to step aside. She whispered, almost trembling, "I won't let them take you." The soldiers raised their weapons. The air grew heavy. Any second, energy bolts would fire. Before the first shot, Daniel acted. He pulled a small object from his bag, a round device the size of a fruit. With one sharp twist, he threw it onto the ground. The device exploded in a flash of white light, the street filled with smoke and sparks. The soldiers stumbled back for a moment, their visors flashing red warnings. Daniel grabbed the girl's arm. "Run," he shouted. They sprinted into the twisting alleys, smoke covering their escape. The girl stumbled, nearly falling, but Daniel kept her steady. Behind them, metal boots pounded the stone. The soldiers were chasing, their voices echoing, "Do not let them escape." They ran through the maze of streets, Daniel guiding her with one hand, clutching his bag in the other. The blind girl panted, her chest burning. Her visor flickered, showing walls and shadows, but every outline shook and vanished too quickly. She could barely tell where she was going. Daniel pulled her into a side passage and pressed her against the wall. He listened. The pounding footsteps grew closer. He whispered, "Stay quiet." "Don't move." The girl nodded, though her hands shook. Her heart beat so loud she feared the soldiers would hear it. The sound of boots came near, then stopped. A shadow moved across the alley entrance. The leader's voice was calm, cold, mechanical. "They are near. The girl leaves traces of energy. We will find them." Daniel's eyes widened. He realized the visor itself was betraying them. The device he built was glowing faint signals the soldiers could track. He cursed under his breath. "They'll follow us anywhere as long as you wear it." The girl grabbed the visor, panic in her voice. Then I'll take it off." "No," Daniel said sharply. "You'll be blind again, and we need every chance to survive." Suddenly, the alley filled with light. A soldier appeared at the far end, weapon raised. Daniel reacted faster than thought. He pulled another small device from his bag, a thin rod of metal. He pressed a button, and the rod snapped open into a buzzing arc of blue light. A makeshift shock weapon, the soldier charged. Daniel stepped forward, blocking the alley with his body. The clash was fierce. Sparks flew as weapon struck weapon. Daniel's arm shook, but he held his ground, slamming the shock rod against the soldier's armor. The blind girl pressed against the wall, terrified. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. The visor flickered, showing flashes of the battle. Two shapes clashing, lights sparking, shadows twisting. With a final shove, Daniel rammed the shock rod into the soldier's chest plate. The armor sparked, and the soldier collapsed with a heavy thud, but there was no time to breathe. The other 3 soldiers were already closing in. Daniel grabbed the girl's hand again. "We can't fight them all. Move." They ran deeper into the maze, soldiers shouting behind them. The district was waking now. Windows opened, terrified faces peeked out. Everyone knew a storm had begun, and no one wanted to be caught in it. The girl gasped, "They won't stop." "Will they?" Daniel's face was grim. "No, they will hunt until they have me." Her voice shook. "Then why? Why did you help me?" Daniel didn't answer right away. His chest heaved as they ran. Finally, he said, "Because someone had to. Because your life is worth more than their laws." The girl's heart trembled. For the first time in her life, someone had said her life mattered. They turned into another alley, but stopped dead. At the far end, the leader stood waiting. His visor glowed red, his weapon humming with deadly energy. "You can run through every alley," the leader said coldly. But you cannot escape fate. The other two soldiers appeared behind them, blocking their way out. Daniel and the girl were trapped. Daniel raised his shock rod again, though his arms shook with exhaustion. "If fate means surrender, then I refuse it." The blind girl clutched his arm, her voice trembling but strong. "If fate means darkness again, then I refuse it too." The leader lifted his weapon slowly. The alley walls glowed blue with energy. Then, before the shot could fire, an explosion shook the ground beneath their feet. The stones cracked. Dust filled the air. From below the street, a hidden passage opened. A voice shouted from the darkness, "This way, hurry!" Daniel froze. He didn't recognize the voice. Was it friend? Was it trap? The soldiers raised their weapons, moving closer. He looked at the girl, then at the opening in the ground. He had only seconds to choose. The ground shook as dust filled the alley. Stones crumbled, and from the broken street a dark passage yawned open. A rough voice echoed from below, "Quick! Before they burn you alive!" Daniel froze, his shock rod buzzing weakly in his hand. The blind girl clung to his arm, trembling. Her visor flickered, showing broken outlines. The glowing soldiers behind them, the leader blocking their path, and the dark hole beneath their feet. The leader's visor pulsed red. "Do not move. There is no escape." But Daniel knew if they stayed, death was certain. He tightened his grip on the girl's hand. "Trust me," he whispered. She nodded, though fear shook her body. Daniel jumped into the opening, pulling her with him. They tumbled down rough stone steps into the dark. A moment later, a heavy slab slammed shut above them, cutting off the blue light of the soldiers' weapons. For the first time that night, silence returned. The girl coughed, brushing dust from her hair. "Who was that?" she whispered. Torches lit suddenly, one after another, revealing a tunnel lined with stone. Standing in the glow was a tall alien with scars across his face. His eyes were sharp but not cruel. He carried a weapon, though it was lowered. "You're lucky I was watching," he said in a low, gruff tone. "Another second and you'd be ashes." Daniel studied him, chest still heaving from the chase. "And who exactly are you?" The alien smirked faintly. "Someone who hates the High Council more than I hate humans." The girl's visor flickered, showing the alien's tall frame. She whispered, "Why help us?" The stranger's expression hardened. "Because your invention is the spark this planet needs." He pointed at her visor. "Do you even understand what you've made human?" Daniel frowned. "It's just a prototype. It's unstable. Unstable or not," the stranger cut in. "It proves humans can build what even the Council forbids. And that makes you more dangerous than any weapon." They moved deeper into the tunnels. The air was damp, the walls carved long ago. Strange symbols lined the stone, old rebellion marks, symbols of resistance. The girl walked close to Daniel, her hand gripping his arm. She whispered so only he could hear, "Can we trust him?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "We don't have a choice." The stranger led them to an underground chamber. It was large, filled with old machinery, crates of supplies and dim lamps. A few more figures appeared from the shadows. Rebels, aliens of different races, all armed, all watching silently. The scarred alien raised his hand. "This is the human I spoke of. The one who builds what they fear," murmurs spread. Some looked at Daniel with suspicion, others with a strange kind of hope. Daniel lifted his chin. "I didn't make this for war. I made it for her. To give her sight." The rebels exchanged glances. The scarred alien stepped closer. "And yet by helping one you may have given hope to many." The blind girl tugged Daniel's sleeve gently. "Daniels, is this true? Do they really think your visor is hope?" Daniel sighed. He knelt so he was level with her. "Listen to me. I built it only for you. Not for armies, not for rebels, not for their war. But sometimes, even small things can become bigger than we want." Her visor flickered again, showing his outline, his tired face. She whispered, "Then I will fight for it. For you." Daniel's heart twisted. She was too young to speak like that, too innocent to be dragged into conflict, but her words carried strength he could not ignore. Suddenly the ground above them shook violently. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The rebels shouted, "They've found us!" Someone cried. The scarred alien cursed. "The soldiers are scanning with heavy weapons. We must move." Daniel grabbed his bag. The girl clung to him. The rebels scattered, preparing defenses. Then came the voice of the soldier leader echoing through the stone from above. Human, you can hide in the dirt, but we will drag you out. Surrender now, and the girl may live. The girl's lips trembled. She pressed closer to Daniel. Don't listen to him. Don't give me up. Daniel held her shoulders firmly. I will never give you up. The scarred alien drew his weapon, glaring at Daniel. Then you better fight with us. Because once they break through, it will be war in these tunnels. The ceiling cracked. Blue energy beams cut through stone, blasting walls apart. Dust blinded the chamber. Daniel shoved the girl behind a crate, pulling out another small device from his bag. His inventions were crude compared to the soldiers' weapons, but they were all he had. The rebels aimed their guns at the ceiling. Hearts pounded. The scarred alien looked at Daniel, eyes sharp. You made her see. Now show us if humans can fight. The ceiling exploded. Elite soldiers dropped through the smoke, weapons glowing. The first shot blasted a rebel off his feet. Screams echoed. Daniel raised his shock rod, standing in front of the girl once more. His voice was steady. If it's war they want, then tonight they'll learn what a human can do. The leader of the soldiers landed in the chamber, red visor glowing bright. His voice was cold as ice. Then tonight, human, you die. The chamber exploded into chaos. Blue bolts of energy tore through the stone walls, filling the underground with blinding light and deafening noise. Dust rained from the ceiling as rebels scattered for cover. Screams echoed as the first soldiers landed. Black armored shapes, weapons glowing like the breath of dragons. Daniel pulled the blind girl behind a crate, his body shielding hers. Sparks danced in the air. He could hear the soldiers' heavy boots hitting the ground, moving with deadly precision. Stay low, he whispered to her. The girl clutched his sleeve. Her visor flickered weakly, showing broken images, the shadows of rebels firing back, the flashes of light from weapons, the terrifying outlines of the elite soldiers cutting through the chamber. Her lips trembled. Daniel, we'll die here, won't we? He looked at her, heart racing, but his voice was calm. Not if I can help it. The scarred alien rebel shouted orders, his voice loud above the battle. Flank them! Don't let them spread! His soldiers fired blasts of red energy, but the elite soldiers deflected them easily with shimmering shields. Daniel knew normal weapons wouldn't work. These soldiers were built for war, but he hadn't spent years building only visors. His bag still carried other inventions, dangerous, unfinished, but now their only hope. He pulled out a small disc covered in wires and scratched metal. Cover your ears, he told the girl. She obeyed instantly. Daniel threw the disc into the center of the chamber. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then came a piercing scream of sound, so high and sharp it made the walls tremble. The rebels dropped to their knees, covering their ears. Even the armored soldiers faltered, their visors flashing with red warnings. Their movement slowed. Now, shouted the scarred alien. He and his fighters opened fire, blasts of energy striking while the soldiers staggered. Daniel grabbed the girl's hand. Move! They ran through the smoke, weaving between fallen beams and rubble. But the leader of the soldiers was not slowed for long. His armor absorbed the shock, his visor stabilizing. He raised his weapon and fired. The blast struck the ground near Daniel, throwing him forward. He hit the floor hard, his bag skidding away. The girl screamed, stumbling to her knees. The leader's shadow loomed over them. His voice was ice. You cannot run from the future, human. You are already written as dead. Daniel coughed, struggling to rise. His hand searched desperately for his bag, but it was too far. Then the blind girl stood. Her legs shook, but she raised her chin. If he dies, then I'll stand alone. The leader tilted his head, curious. You are broken, weak. Her visor flickered again, showing only faint outlines. She clenched her fists. Maybe, but with this visor he showed me the world. And if I have to, I'll fight to keep it. She grabbed Daniel's fallen shock rod and held it in both hands. It was heavy, buzzing with unstable energy. She could barely lift it, but her arms didn't drop. Daniel's chest tightened. No, put it down, you'll hurt yourself. But she refused. The leader raised his weapon toward her. Then you will be the first to fall. Before he could fire, Daniel threw himself forward, slamming into the soldier's chest. The weapon blast shot upward, carving a hole in the ceiling. Daniel grunted as the soldier's armor struck back like stone. The girl swung the shock rod blindly. By luck or fate, the buzzing arc scraped against the soldier's leg. Sparks exploded and the giant stumbled. The rebels cheered, surging forward to push the soldiers back. The scarred alien grabbed Daniel, hauling him to his feet. She bought you a moment, don't waste it. Daniel scrambled for his bag. His hand shook as he pulled free his most dangerous creation, a grenade made of unstable energy cores. He had never dared use it before. He twisted the dial, threw it across the chamber, and dove over the girl. The explosion was not fire but force, an invisible wave that hurled soldiers off their feet, slamming them into walls and breaking their formation. Armor sparked. Weapons fell. The chamber shook as though the earth itself had roared. When the smoke cleared, 3 soldiers lay disabled, their armor cracked. Only the leader stood staggering, but unbroken. His visor glowed like burning coal. "You fight like a desperate animal," he snarled. "But animals always die in cages." Daniel pulled the girl close, raising the shock rod again even though his arms trembled. "Maybe, but humans build cages, and humans break them too," the leader charged. Daniel braced for impact, but then a horn echoed through the tunnels. Deep, loud, powerful. The rebels froze. Even the leader paused, visor scanning. The scarred alien's face hardened. "They've called for reinforcements. We won't survive another wave." Daniel's heart sank. His inventions were nearly gone. His body was exhausted, and the girl clung to him, still trembling but unyielding. He whispered into her ear, "Stay with me. No matter what," she whispered back, "always." The horn sounded again, closer this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. More soldiers were coming. The leader's visor flared red. "This ends now." And with that, the chamber filled with new shadows descending from above. The horn's echo had barely faded before the ceiling cracked open again. Stone rained down, and from the breach above, new figures dropped into the chamber. More soldiers armored in black and silver, their weapons glowing like blades of lightning. The ground trembled under the weight of their landing. The rebels groaned in despair. Already many had fallen, their weapons empty, their bodies bruised. Now another wave of elite warriors had arrived, fresh and unbroken. Daniel's chest tightened. He pulled the blind girl close, shielding her behind him. His hands shook, his muscles screamed from exhaustion, but his eyes burned with stubborn fire. The leader raised his weapon, voice cold and sharp. "Your inventions delay the inevitable, human. Tonight you and your pet die." The girl's small fingers clutched Daniel's sleeve. Her visor flickered, showing only faint outlines. Yet even through her fear, her voice trembled with defiance. "I am not a pet. I am alive, because of him." The rebels rallied at her words. The scarred alien raised his weapon, shouting, "Then we fight until the last breath." The chamber shook with war once more. The soldiers advanced, shields glowing as they cut through the rebels' fire. Daniel knew the rebels could not hold long. His bag was almost empty. Only one unfinished device remained, a prototype far too unstable to use. It could burn out in seconds, or destroy the whole chamber. He stared at it, heart pounding. The blind girl felt his hesitation. "Daniel, what is it?" He held up the small device. It was no larger than his fist, a glowing core wrapped in wires. "It's not ready. It might kill us." Her lips parted. She was trembling, but she lifted her chin. "If it gives us a chance, then use it." Daniel stared at her, shocked by her courage. For a moment, he forgot the battle. He only saw her, the girl who had lived her whole life in darkness and yet now spoke with more light than anyone around her. He swallowed hard. "Then stay behind me, no matter what." The leader stormed forward, cutting down 2 rebels with a single strike. His red visor locked onto Daniel. "End this," he commanded. His soldiers spread out, surrounding them. Daniel clicked the device on. It whined with unstable energy, glowing brighter until the wires sparked. His arm shook from the force. The scarred alien's eyes widened. "Human. That core will tear us all apart." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Then pray it tears them apart first." He hurled the device into the soldiers' formation. A blinding pulse ripped through the chamber. Light so bright it burned the eyes. A sound so deep it rattled bones. For a second everything froze, then the explosion hit. Soldiers were hurled backward, their shields shattered, armor cracked. The chamber walls split, rubble crashing down. Screams and roars filled the underground. Daniel grabbed the girl, shielding her as the shock wave slammed into them. Pain shot through his back. He tasted blood. When the light faded, silence fell. The air was thick with smoke. Broken soldiers lay scattered. Rebels coughed, wounded but alive. Daniel coughed, forcing himself to his knees. His hands shook, his ears rang. The girl clung to him, eyes wide behind her flickering visor. "Daniel, are we alive?" He forced a tired smile. "For now." but not all had fallen. Through the smoke, the leader rose slowly. His armor was damaged, sparks flying from broken plates, but his strength remained. His red visor glowed like fire in the dark. He pointed his weapon at Daniel, voice furious. "You will suffer for this, human." Daniel struggled to stand. His body ached, his weapons were gone. He had nothing left. The girl pushed forward suddenly, standing between Daniel and the leader. Her visor flickered weakly, but her voice rang strong. "No," she said. "If you want him, you'll go through me." The chamber fell silent. Even the rebels stared in shock. The leader tilted his head. "You are blind, broken, worthless." Her lips curled into the faintest smile. "Maybe I was, but he gave me sight. He gave me life. And I will not let you take him." The leader raised his weapon, ready to fire. Daniel's heart stopped. He tried to push her aside, but his body was too slow. His voice cracked. "No!" The weapon hummed, then sputtered. The visor on the girl's face glowed suddenly, brighter than before. The flickering lines steadied, shining with sharp blue light. Her head lifted, her eyes behind the visor glowing faintly as if the device had awakened fully. For the first time, she saw the leader clearly. She whispered, almost in awe, "I can see you." Then the visor released a pulse of energy, unplanned, uncontrolled. The blast struck the leader's chest, sending him crashing backward into the rubble. The chamber gasped. Silence followed. The girl collapsed to her knees, the visor smoking faintly. Daniel rushed to her, catching her in his arms. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, but she was alive. She whispered weakly, "Did I do that?" Daniel held her tightly. "Yes, you did." The scarred alien stepped forward, eyes wide with shock. "Human, your prototype. It awakened with her." Daniel looked down at the girl in his arms. The visor had unlocked something he never intended, something powerful. But before he could answer, rubble shifted. The leader's hand clawed free, dragging his broken body from the debris. His visor glowed faintly red, cracked but alive. "This is not over," he growled. Daniel's stomach dropped. The fight wasn't finished. Not yet. And above, the horn sounded again, closer, louder. Reinforcements were almost here. The chamber was broken stone and smoke. Rebels lay wounded, soldiers scattered, rubble glowing faintly from the blast. Daniel held the blind girl tight in his arms, her chest rising fast, her visor faintly glowing with strange blue light. But from the dust, the leader rose again. His armor was shattered, sparks flying from torn plates, but his strength burned like fire. His red visor cracked, glowing unevenly. Yet his voice was steady, sharp as a blade. "You think this is victory? You think a human and a broken child can defy the High Council?" He lifted his weapon, shaking but still deadly. "No, this is only the beginning of your suffering." Daniel stood, pulling the girl to her feet. He was exhausted, his body screaming with pain, but his eyes held iron. "If this is the beginning," he said, "then I'll fight until the end." The girl's small hand squeezed his. Her visor flickered, then steadied again, glowing brighter than ever before. "We fight together," she whispered. The leader charged, weapon blazing. The ground shook with every step. Daniel had no weapons left, no inventions in his bag, only scraps of broken metal. Yet he stepped forward, placing himself between the girl and the monster in black armor. His heart pounded, but his voice was calm. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." But before the leader could strike, the visor released another surge of energy. The blast struck his weapon, bending it out of shape. Sparks flew. The chamber lit up in blue light. The rebels gasped. Some dropped their weapons, staring. The girl stood trembling, her eyes glowing faintly behind the visor. For the first time, she could see clearly, faces, weapons, even the cracks on the stone. Her sight was raw and unstable, but it was hers. She raised her chin. "You called me broken," she said. Her voice shook but grew stronger with each word. "But I see you now. And you are afraid." The leader froze for a heartbeat. His grip tightened on his broken weapon. Then he roared and lunged. Daniel reacted with instinct. He grabbed a shard of metal from the ground and swung it with all his strength. Sparks burst as the shard slammed into the leader's cracked visor. The leader staggered. Blue light from the girl's visor struck him again, straight into the chest. His armor glowed red, then blackened, then burst apart. He fell to his knees, smoke rising from his body. His visor shattered, sparks fading into darkness. For the first time, silence fell over the chamber. The scarred rebel stepped forward, his voice echoing. The leader is down. He turned to Daniel. Human, what have you made? Daniel stared at the smoking visor on the girl's face, his chest heavy. He had built only a prototype meant to give her sight. Yet in her hands, or perhaps through her will, it had become something greater. Something even he did not understand. I didn't make this, Daniel whispered. His hand rested gently on the girl's shoulder. She did, but the silence didn't last. Above them, the horn sounded again. Heavy boots thundered from distant tunnels. More reinforcements were coming. The battle wasn't finished, it was only paused. The rebels looked at Daniel with desperate eyes. What do we do? We cannot fight another wave. The girl's small hand gripped his. Her visor glowed brighter as if answering the question for him. Daniel looked at her, then at the rebels. He knew what he had to do. We don't run. We show them something they can't kill. We show them hope. He turned to the scarred rebel. Get your people out. Hide them, protect them. I'll hold the soldiers here. The rebel's eyes widened. That's suicide. Daniel smiled faintly, tired but unbroken. Maybe, but sometimes one act is enough to change everything. The girl shook her head, clutching his arm tightly. No, I won't leave you. He knelt so his eyes met hers, his voice soft but steady. Listen to me. You've already done more than anyone believed possible. You've shown them you are not broken. You've shown them humans can give more than destruction. They can give life. He placed his hand gently over her visor. That is your gift now. Carry it, protect it. One day you'll show the stars what you can see. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded slowly. Then promise me, she whispered. Promise you'll come back. Daniel's throat tightened. He gave her the smallest, saddest smile. I promise. The rebels pulled her away, though she fought against their grip, calling his name. Daniel turned back to the chamber entrance. Already blue lights glowed in the tunnel, shadows of soldiers advancing. He gripped the broken shard of metal in his hand. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his heart was steady. For one last moment he thought of Earth, of all the humans scattered, hunted, forgotten. And he thought of her, the girl who saw the stars for the first time through his hands. He whispered to himself, if this is the end, let it mean something. The tunnel blazed with enemy light. Daniel raised his shard. His shadow stood tall against the glow, and when the soldiers stormed in, all they saw was a human standing alone, unbroken, ready to fight the universe itself.